It has the power to take your money, to ruin your life, and to throw you in jail. And now, word that the Internal Revenue Service applied extra scrutiny to nonprofit groups with names that included Tea Party or Patriot, or that were critical of the government or provided education about the Constitution. Pernicious political persecution or basic bureaucratic bungling? I'm PJTV's Scott Ott, joined now by Bill Whittle and Stephen Green. Well, men, President Nixon had his enemies list and planned to have the IRS audit them, but apparently no audits happened. As we mark the 40th anniversary of the Watergate scandal, one of the Washington Post reporters who broke that story weighed in on the IRS scrutiny scandal.
It's terrible, outrageous, heads ought to roll. Yeah. Simple as that, and some high up heads, it looks like, from what we know so far.
Now, Carl Bernstein goes on to say that we don't have a smoking gun in the president's hands, so to speak, but we do know that top IRS officials knew about the targeted scrutiny many months before the 2012 election and said nothing publicly. Well, Stephen Green, the IRS admits mistakes were made, but insists that no political bias was involved, just bad judgment about how to sort incoming applications for nonprofit status. Are you willing to give these public servants the benefit of the doubt?
Oh, absolutely. Of course they're monitoring patriots. And I don't see why the IRS is throwing up this smokescreen or why the White House is using their sort of plausible deniability routine that it was just one office in Ohio doing this stuff. No, I think they should own up. I think they should admit it. I think they should be proud. Look, my blood boils when I think of the kind of thing patriots get away with. This loving their country, wanting to make sure it stays solvent, protecting their liberties and the liberties of their fellow men and women. Are these really the kind of people the Obama administration can just let wander around the country freely? No, there's nothing more dangerous to a country than a person who loves it. We need to at the very least tag and release these weirdos.
If you see something, say something. Well, Bill Whittle, President Obama said he won't tolerate political discrimination at the IRS, and he made that statement immediately, several days after word of the scandal broke. Are Republicans making a mistake trying to tag Obama with this before all the facts are known?
Does anybody, look, can't we just go back to a world where people speak the plain and obvious truth? Barack Obama has used the organs of government to intimidate his political enemies from the beginning. This is the Chicago way. This is Rahm Emanuel, and this is David Axelrod. This is what they do. This goes back to, remember Gibson Guitars? What was that, 2009, 2008, where Gibson Guitars, who donated to Republicans, were raided because they imported a certain kind of wood, and the other guitar company that used the exact same kind of wood and donated to Democrats weren't raided. And we've seen it again and again and again and again and again and again. And this idea that the IRS just suddenly decides to get a bug and start prosecuting Tea Party groups without any direction from above is an absolute lie. We know that the Obama administration had the phones of reporters wiretapped because of leaks, and we know that they used the organs of the government in order to intimidate and oppress their political enemies. This came from the top, and when Bernstein says, high-level heads must roll, I wonder if he would have been satisfied if it had been Richard Nixon's chief of staff. He went after the president because he knew the president was the guy who was ultimately behind it, and if anybody had any integrity and any sense, they'd seen the same connection here.
Well, Steve, several members of Congress, invoking memories of Nixon, said that they would, quote, raise hell if the IRS engaged in ideological profiling. And they were Massachusetts Democrats. Do we finally have an issue that will bring the warring parties together in agreement?
We very well might, and I'll give you a serious answer this time. The Democrats ought to be scared. Congressional Democrats, senatorial Democrats, any Democrat thinking of running in 2014 or especially 2016. Look, we know which party is the party of electoral corruption. We know who cheats on Election Day. We know who doesn't want to reveal where their money comes from, Clinton Library, anybody. And so all these Democrats ought to be running scared because someday, maybe someday soon, there's going to be a Republican administration. Now, since Nixon got caught, the GOP, they've played nice with this kind of thing in the IRS. But now they might come looking for a little payback. And the Obama administration, this IRS, they've set a brand new precedent. So the Democrats had better get on the right side of this issue before the IRS goes looking for their skeletons, and they know where they are.
Well, Bill, in the past few days, we've learned that next year you'll have to report your Obamacare ID number and other details about your health care coverage along with your IRS tax forms. So, Bill, please say something to assure our viewers that our government would never let politics interfere with the health and well-being of our citizens. That's what I figured.
Good night.
Well, you know, even if this turns out to be a boneheaded error, why did the IRS have to be forced to fess up? Top officials knew about this as early as last May, 2012. Why didn't they come forward, holding themselves to a high standard of integrity? After all, they're the people we mail all our money to. Whether this turns out to be anti-Tea Party IRS intimidation or not, the fact that they only confessed after being unmasked is crippling to credibility. Ultimately, there may be no way to know for sure if it's an isolated accidental incident or if we have a rogue agency with unchecked power that will soon turn its scrutinator on you as you perch on a cold table wearing a backless gown. For Bill Whittle, Stephen Green, and the entire Trifecta crew at PJTV.com, I'm Scott Ott.